Welcome to the AR-15 podcast. This show is for you if you just bought your first AR or if you've been building them for years. There is something we can all do to take our black rifles to the next level. My name is Nick Dooley, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Garth Over.
Hey, buddy. So, before we dive into anything else, man, you know, I was telling you about this earlier, that I was reading some of our iTunes reviews, you know, and man, you know what? We're just not very popular on iTunes. So I thought, well, actually, one review troll in particular kind of irked me, and he probably don't listen anymore anyway. But that's fine. That's cool. So he told me, or he said on the review that, you know, the sidekick, he don't know much about anything, but the host, he's pretty knowledgeable. And so it prompted me to do something. You remember, like, when we were in elementary school and high school, and you had to show up to, like, on a Monday morning, and you had to present a current event, and, like, you never remembered to do it. So you and six of your buddies had the same current event because you sent them down to the library 5 minutes before class to find something that happened that weekend. Well, I'm going to do something similar to that. And we're going to call it Useless Facts with Garth. I'm going to do it sporadically once every show, just in the middle, you know, like a VZ grip read kind of thing going on. But I'm going to do the first one right off the bat. So this is your one piece of knowledgeable information you're going to get from me. And then the rest of it's going to be going back to Garth BS. So deal with it, okay? Here's what it is.
Yay!
Yay! Various methods were developed to ignite gunpowder in firearms. One of the first mechanical systems was the matchlock, developed around 1410. How did it work? Well, a clamp held a slow-burning match. When fired, the clamp lowered the match into the priming powder. That would suck. I'm glad we have the modern day sporting rifle, the AR-15. So that's your useless fact with Garth for this week.
Yeah, those actually looked kind of rad. Like when you get into, so it went, how that, all right, you put a quarter in me.
I know. So, this is my plan every week to do this.
So that was kind of rad how that worked. So we went from like hand cannons, you know, and which was like a cannon on a stick.
Yeah.
And then you have the guy sit there and he would have the cannon pointing out of him in a stick, and then he'd be like, whoo, like with a firework punk, and be like,
yep.
Whoop, whoop, and poof, and it would go off. Okay, so hand cannons. Then we moved into matchlock. And have you ever seen like some of those weird candles you'll see on Amazon or something? Like my wife will look at stuff and I see candles every now and then. And they're like a super long wick that you could like count time by.
Yep.
And so that's very similar to what this match, the slow burning match was. It was like a string, and they'd have it up so it's just right on the end, and they would light it, and they would pull it down, and then when it would drop in, it would drop into called a flash pan. And when that flash pan hit, it was a hole on the side. So you'd run the muzzle loader just like you would with like a flintlock, which was the next evolution. And but so you'd run your powder down, powder wad shot, and then you'd turn the rifle over and you'd fill the flash pan with powder, and you'd have this little fire being over here like, oh, hey, what's going on? And then, and it would go, you know, that would make it go bang. And it was, Jeff says, give you a few seconds, bad guy, stand still. That was very much so like the case. So remember that when we were talking about warfare at this time, as this went through, you know, so it would ignite with that, you know, the candle, you know, or the fuse hitting the flash pan on the side of the rifle, and that would ignite it. And like you'd see this a lot of times in blunderbuss and things of those nature. But as you did this was when warfare was, you know, troops online like 50 to 100 meters apart.
Yep.
And the first, you know, you did volley fire back and forth at one another. And that was standard practice for how wars were fought with, well, it started with that's how we did it with like, rifles or swords and shields, and then we moved into archery and archers and all this. So we form a skirmish line, and you would just trade blows back and forth because that was gentlemanly.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was a very gentleman's sport, if you will, and now it's all fair is love and war, kind of thing where anything goes.
Well, so what happened is we went through and like this was common practice. That was how Europe fought wars, and it's why
Well,
they had things like the 100 Years' War.
yeah.
But as that went through, that the modern concept of warfare is a very American concept because
Hmm.
there's actually this dude who you may have heard of. His name is George Washington,
Yeah.
and they went through because up until that point in the American Revolution, uh, you did not target officers like
Hmm.
ever, and it was something you just did not do because in targeting officers, the battle would fall apart, and it was generally officers were all nobles, and it was a different crust of people, so they didn't want to be hurting their own kind. And then when the American Revolution came up, we went, hey, here's the deal, we got to win this, so we're going to go dirty early.
Yep.
And we instructed our troops and snipers to shoot almost exclusively officers. And everybody went, what's going on? Which is why, like, even to this day, like in current conflicts, if you shoot, say, a Russian officer, in Ukraine or something like that, the
Hmm.
unit will kind of fall apart underneath of them
Yeah.
because of how militaries are structured. And the American military does not. The fat electrician said it best. And he goes, what happens is when you shoot the officer in an American military, they revert to what is best called as default aggressive. And it's not, oh, hey, what's going on? We're going to do this. We're going to fall apart. It's, oh, hey, guys, that restrictor plate's gone. What are we going to do? I don't know, kill the whole village?
Yeah, pretty
And,
much.
and it's, I'm not going to say it like that. That's a part of his bit, but that's what it is we go default aggressive. And
Hmm.
it's, all right, hey, guess what? I still know the plan. Let's go. Now you just shot Steve, and Steve was my buddy.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I just thought it was an interesting fact. I've been watching that movie Glory with Denzel Washington and Matthew Broderick. I'd never seen it before, and so it's a pretty good film about the Civil War and the 54th all black infantry.
Yep. Now those would have been
Infantry.
flintlocks.
Yeah, they were absolutely 100%. But it
Well,
sparked like me
actually,
diving down a rabbit hole.
even at that point, those probably would have been percussion cap. So how it worked out was it the genesis of it all is to how we got where we are today is we started with hand cannon, then we went to matchlock. Well, and then there was wheel lock and some other like real weird eclectic stuff there in the middle.
Hmm.
And then we went to the main ones were, we went through that, then we went to matchlock, flintlock, which you didn't have to light it on fire. It used a piece of flint to strike the iron on the front, which would cause
Yep.
a spark and detonate. Same, but different. and then after that, we got into percussion caps, which was you used the forefather of the primer to ignite the powder. Then we went to, well, we could talk about pinfire, but that wasn't really widely used, but pinfire was a thing. You see it in some French revolvers. And then we got into rimfire, which is where the cartridge really kind of took off.
Hmm.
And that started with like the volcanic pistol and stuff like that. And the people who worked on the volcanic were names that a lot of people would recognize
Nice.
because that was like Smith, Wesson, Henry. Um,
Mhm.
yeah,
Weird.
we yeah, whole bunch of names that all go together. But anyways, I digress. We're 10 minutes in, and I am still going off about your fact. I
I know. I love it.
apologize.
It's so great. It's so funny. And this is going to happen every week now.
I can't help myself.
So thank you, iTunes YouTube troll.
Yeah, you now get to listen to me vomit random historical information.
But it's fun. We're having fun. And speaking of fun, Nick, did you do anything fun this week with guns?
Oh, I did. I did. It seems like there's times it seems like I do a lot.
Mm-hmm.
There's times it seems like I don't do as much as I should. But Garth, you and I'm going to go backwards for this week.
Yeah, that's
I
fine.
I finally got on the Carolina High Point train, the
Nice.
Daggerinos, the PSA Dagger, and put one of my, I have a handful of random spare guns around, but I got a dagger lower or hand guard, whatever you want to call it. I got the grip module
Mm-hmm.
and trigger components. So I have a PSA dagger to try, and I'm going to put through some paces because, well, why not? And
But
what?
that one specifically, those take Gen 3 frames if you can do a Glock on it, right?
Yes,
Okay, so
yep. I had a Gen 3 Glock that I had in a RE Factor 2020 chassis, or stabilizing brace, and
mm-hmm.
I do not like Glocks. They make my hands bleed because they're not made for people with man-sized hands.
Yeah.
And so the daggers, I've shot a couple of them and they don't. So I joined the Carolina High Point, or as Dusky would call it, the Daggerino tribe, and have that going, and have one of those, which I showed Garth earlier. I will be modifying maybe before I ever shoot it because it has finger grooves, and those just got to go.
I can
But,
imagine that as soon as we sign off tonight, you will start.
yep. But then, so did that. And then, let's see, Sunday, we shot a match,
We did.
and I had some failures on that match. Not in my shooting, but in some equipment. Found out I had a bad firing pin spring on my shotgun that I took down to zombies. It ran through zombies just fine. And
And then it
you know,
said no more.
it said, "Hey, bud, you need to put some new parts in me."
Yeah.
And so those are on the way. Saturday, I taught a class, and Friday, I went to the range with our good friend Craig. And when I came back from that, I went, "Hey, I need to clean this rifle that I used because the one I took to night vision." And I took that apart, and when I started pulling all the parts out of my ultrasonic cleaner, I found a spring that was in two pieces that was in one piece when I went in because I had a buffer spring that was literally held together by carbon.
Oof.
And it had some issues, and I was like, well, that would explain why it wasn't springing the way it was supposed to sprung. And we went through that and got that swapped out because I do carry those parts on hand.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not have a firing pin for a Franke Affinity, though, or firing
Yeah.
pin spring. But now I have three.
Well, there you go. Perfect. Nothing wrong with that.
How about you, Garth? Did you do anything fun?
Man, I've been doing a lot of fun stuff. I have been detailing the range. I posted some stuff on our Instagram, and I think it posted to Facebook as well about upgrades on the range. I've been upgrading my rifle range as well. And then, well, I kind of dove into my gun money and bought a Jeep Gladiator. So I've been looking into my safe and thinking, and this is going to upset a lot of people, a few of our listeners, I'm sure. I'm one of those guys that owns a gun for like 6 months and then will release it back into the wild because I no longer have a use for it. And that upsets some people, but that's how I roll. So, yeah, I'm trying to get rid of about 12 different guns. Some of them are from the gun of the month buying spree last year because, well, I bought them because they were cool and had real no use for them. And so, yeah, I'm releasing some back to the wild so I can pay for some new stuff, a new shotgun for 3-gun because I learned that I can't shoot. Well, I can shoot shotgun. I just can't load a tube fed shotgun in a timely manner that would make me feel like John Wick. So I'm going to go to a box fed on that. And then I ordered a whole bunch of new gear, a whole bunch of belts and new holsters and G code attachments, 4-set holsters, and all that good stuff. So it's yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. And then yeah, again, like you said, we shot the match, and my overall experience was fairly good. I actually won open in pistol, which surprised the crap out of me because well, that Hive trigger I put in that Glock 34 made all the difference, and now I'm a fiend with that thing until I actually go
Weird.
up against until I go up against real competition, then I'll get my butt kicked. But that's fine. But yeah, I also had some issues at the shoot. My Black Rain 223 decided it was going to become a bolt action rifle during the match. And so I think a thorough cleaning is going to be needed. And so I think after the show tonight, I'm going to clean both Black Rains, my PCC, and my 5.56, and get those in tip-top shape for the next shoot that I'll get to go to in a month and a half. So,
Yeah, well, we're going to do a little bit more before then.
well, I mean, we will, but I mean, just as far as actual competitions go,
yes,
that'll be my next one sometime in July, which kind of sucks, but life happens. You can't make it sometimes. It's actually all my buddies getting married. Stop getting married on my weekends off. Sorry, they don't listen to the show anyway, so they don't. There
Yeah, I know. It's all right, bud.
you go.
No, but you forgot one thing that we did.
Oh, well, I mean, the most important thing, and I wouldn't really forget it. I just was going to talk about it after. But I mean, I guess we're in after now, huh?
Yeah, we've kind of moved on to after. So you talked about how you did. I did pretty well at the match as well. I had some ammunition issues, and as well with my handgun, and some bad ammunition that I got. So that was super fun, and my a couple of my scores went down from where they should have been, but I still won 2 classes. I got limited optics and production, so that was handy for me. And you know, I enjoy both those classes, and got to practice a bunch of malfunction drills, which is good because training is good and important.
And really fun when you're shooting a match in the time competition.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's when it's best. But anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that. I'm not angry. You're angry.
Yeah, no. I think you got all the anger out when you swore at the gun 35 times in 10 seconds.
Yeah, we were going to release a video of me shooting part of that match, but in order to bleep it, it would have either sounded like Morse code or just been one constant beep.
Yeah, there have been no sound for the video at all. I can edit stuff, not that good.
Yeah, that was not fun.
Yeah, happens.
But I mean, it was fun for everyone else. Everyone else had quite a ton of joy with it.
Oh, they were all having a great time. Oh, look at the AR-15 guys. Can't shoot their own AR-15s. Yeah.
Hey, I never had a problem shooting it. Mine went bang every time.
Yeah, but yours was also a bolt action.
For a little while, and then I changed mags, and suddenly everything worked.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So. And I went, hey, I should have done that right when I started having problems. But I didn't because I'm an idiot.
We'll eventually find some good bullets.
It's like, I will work through these malfunctions. This isn't working. What should I do? Work harder.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously me. It's not the gun.
Not at all.
But with that said, something we did in the afternoon that actually did not have any problems.
No, it was actually quite fun.
Yeah, and was shocking to me. As some people know, we have a couple of test rifles in, and I've gone out and shot them and posted some pictures of groups and things of that nature to the social medias. And you got to go out and try these for the first time.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun actually, just to get out there. So you put a couple LPVOs on these. We have an Anderson Manufacturing 308 AR-10, and then we also have a Palmetto State Saber AR-10. And we ran them side by side, and we set a couple of targets out at 100 yards. And the first two magazines, I just took my time at 100 yards, going down range with these bad boys. And I mean, what can I say? It's a 308. Is the recoil so much better than the other one? No, not really. Is it almost fair to say they're a horse apiece? Possibly. Did I shoot one better than the other one? Yeah, I actually shot the cheaper firearm. Uh, in cheaper, I guess, it depends on where you're looking at prices. The Anderson manufacturing gun, I shot surprisingly well. And
So I put up on screen here for anyone watching live. This was not from this particular range outing. This was from an earlier one. When we were talking about, this is when I had zeroed them. So this is the Anderson group, and that is a 5-shot group, and it's about 1 MOA.
Yeah.
And that was with 147 grain PMC ball ammo. It did not like the 168 grain Black Hills, and that opened up to about 1.5 inch size group.
Yep.
It did prefer that. So that was the Anderson Ranger. And then, again, I did the same thing here with another 5-shot group with the PSA, which was right at that 1 MOA mark on the 147. But that PSA, I had one flyer that I will call that one was 100% me. But that PSA gun really liked the Black Hills 168 grain.
Yeah. And again, my groups when I was shooting weren't horrible by any means for being the first time shooting them, and also looking through an optic that you had sighted in for your eye relief versus my eye relief. But yeah, like I said, they're almost a horse apiece. The Saber was a little bit more expensive.
And shooting those, when we talk about like the differences, we don't have pictures of the targets. That was also like from a rest, like nice and slow on a good day when it was morning and not having shot a match and tired all day.
Yeah. But yeah, like I said, I wasn't disappointed with either group for myself as far as shooting. And afterwards, Nick gave me a couple magazines with, I think, 4 or 6 rounds in them, and then I did double taps. And if I remember correctly, I think I was able to pull up the Saber just a little bit better on the follow-up shots. But again, as far as a AR-10 platform firearm goes, both of them are pretty solid purchases.
Well, and it is important to notice where you were able to be on target faster and more accurate with the Saber, but that actually has a proper muzzle device.
Correct.
Not a A2 birdcage. So that actually has a muzzle device that does something.
And again, like you'd mentioned at the range that day, how many guys are actually going to keep that furniture on a gun? Once you get it, I know myself, yourself, and a few other friends of ours, when we buy a 308 or a 5.56, usually it's going to get suppressed. And so that's going to change a whole bunch of factors as well. But just shooting them out of the box, completely, untouched, other than adding an optic, I wouldn't steer anyone away from one or the other. It just depends on how much money you guys want to spend as individuals. Like I said, the Saber was a little nicer, more appealing, just because it was a $1,200 value versus the MSRP of the Anderson at what, 1,000, I believe.
Yep, and that $200, you got a stainless barrel and ambi lower, and I'm not sure what to call the shape of that handguard.
I'm not either. It's a nice feeling handguard. It's got some texture to it, so
Yep, it's not quite triangular. It's more angled and textured and not just a standard M-LOK handguard.
Yeah.
Even
And
though they
again,
both are M-LOK handguards.
and we're not saying those are the cheapest financial ways to go out about buying a AR-10 by any means. I mean, if you're a builder, then obviously I think you could probably do it for cheaper. But if you're looking for a complete gun, in my opinion, I think the Anderson Manufacturing is the way to go.
Well, I have a couple AR-10s already that I've built,
Yes.
and honestly, I think I spent more than both of these guns
Well, I know you, so I know that's going to happen.
uh, in building my AR-10s.
Yeah.
And the one handy thing is like the 16-inch PSA gun worked out of the box every time, and it
Yeah.
didn't make me like you didn't have to go through and figure out a bunch of things like I did on mine because I had a gas port drilled incorrectly.
Well, exactly. That's my biggest uh, plus, pro to buying any firearm out of the box, from a trusted manufacturer is you can build the best AR setup you have, but sometimes things don't happen the way you want to. Sometimes you forget to do one simple step, and then all of a sudden you've just got a really cool paperweight. So,
Yep. Or sometimes you have to sit there and bang your head against a wall and figure out what's going on, and then finally beat the gun until you notice something happening and go, "Oh, hey, look at that! I figured it out."
yeah, I did that. I figured it out.
That's
Yeah.
happened to me a lot. Garth, you've seen me do it.
I've seen him do it. I've seen him take a gun and just beat the piss out of the ground with it, and then hand it back to me. Go here, it's fixed. And then I fired it, and it worked fine. But I went, holy crap!
This should not work.
But it made it better.
It's because I used my gorilla strength.
Yes.
Yes. So with that, we're talking about 308s, and you might be asking why you would want to get a 308 AR.
I ask myself all the time. I've had 7, and I just keep releasing them back into the wild. But eventually, I think I'm just going to have to settle on one.
Yep. So having a 308 AR or 308 in general, and having one of these is very important to me. Dusky says life's little mysteries can be confounding, and that is correct because I've mysteriously beat things into the proper place with a hammer. But 308 can be greatly used and utilized because it's not a 223. And I love 223. Like that is my go-to caliber for rifles. It's 223. I have a 300 I have a 300 blackout. I have a pile of other calibers as well stuffed into my safe.
Mm-hmm.
But I shoot 223 or 5.56 the most. And well, 223 5.56, I'm just going to call it, we'll just call it 5.56 is incredibly useful, and you can do a ton with it. In our state, you can hunt deer with it. You can take game with it. Everything except elk. And it's a solid cartridge for that. There are times when you might want a little bit more, I'm just going to call it ass behind that bullet. And when that happens, you want a little bit bigger bullet, because there's no replacement for displacement. And that's where 308 comes in clutch. And that 7.62 by 51 NATO round 308. 7.62 by 51 NATO is actually backwards from 5.56 and 223, where 5.56 is a slightly higher pressure round. 7.62 by 51 NATO is actually lower pressure than standard 308. But that is neither here nor there. The 308, is arguably one of, if not the most versatile rifle caliber available in the country today.
Mm-hmm.
I say that I was flipping through YouTube this weekend, and I saw Vortex talking about 308 on their little like their 30-minute podcast or video blog, whatever you want to call it, on YouTube. And they were actually talking about it, and they're like, "Oh yeah," because almost all of my cartridges or my loadings for 308 that I've made are, over 150 grains.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, I have 147 grain bulk ammo that is, mill contract run over. But that's my plinking rounds. That's if I want to shoot He-Man class 3-gun, I can use that.
Mm-hmm.
But generally, I kind of live and die at 168 grain. That's my loading. I like it. I use it for doing some longer range stuff. I use it for hunting. It just works really, really well for me. And it's kind of like, oh, what are you shooting 5.56? I shoot a ton of 55 grain because I can do everything with it.
Yeah.
But that said, having that little bit more punch when you pull the trigger adds a lot to the capability of a rifle, and the ability to get loadings from 110 grain, because you can get 110 grain VMAX varmint bullets that are just screaming out of a 308,
Mm-hmm.
all the way up to like 220 grain thumpers, where you're putting serious hurt on a target with a rifle caliber shooting a slug the size of a lot of 45 ACP rounds in weight.
That's
But
a
it's,
lot.
yeah, it's, like you're putting a ton of energy on target at that point. Like, I hope those are level 4 plates, bro. And
Hey, you doing that?
even
Is that legal over there? Those level 4 plates? Yeah, that's that kind of thing.
even at that, it's still going to be like, getting hit in the chest with a sledgehammer. So I
Oh
would
yeah.
not recommend it. But so the other reason why one might want to move on and look at a 308 is, so 308 is very versatile, and you can run it to 1,000 yards no problem. I have ran mine past 1,000 yards before.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a handful of 308s, and I think I only have one that I haven't taken past 1,000, and they're awesome. They work. It's great. Like, that is one of the most predictable rounds on the planet. Like, everybody just knows where it hits. It's
No, go ahead.
it's oh yep, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna shoot 308. We're gonna this is how far the drop is. Dirt Racer here says, is there a better reason to have a 308 AP than a level 4 plate? I mean, dealer's choice at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. No, I agree with you, Nick, 100%. I've always been a 5.56 guy. I don't really do game hunting and stuff like that. I tried last year, and I poked at a deer at about 250, 300 yards, and I shot, and then the deer just walked away. And I don't know if I honestly hit it or not. Uh, my neighbor to the north found a nice set of 4x4 horns in his field about 3 months later, and I could never prove that it was the one I shot, and I kind of feel bad about that. But I looked for a good 3 hours and I couldn't find the dang thing. So I really hope it wasn't. But yeah, had I had a 308, I think I would have just dropped it on the spot. And the knockdown power is a big bonus of them, and long distance shooting. I know there's guys out there that go, oh, I can take my 3 or my 5.56 800 yards. Yeah, you probably can. I'm not quite. Yeah, I'm not questioning that the accuracy of the gun is in question, but at 800 yards with a 5.56 versus a 308, there is a substantial difference in knockdown power.
Well, it's I've got a very specific 5.56 gun that I built for long range competition.
Yeah,
it is an AR, and I've ran it to 1,000 meters, and like that's I don't think I could go any further than that,
mm-hmm.
just because there's not enough behind that cartridge. But that is kind of why one of the theories we want to talk about with 308s and having it is the DMR. So when you hear about people shooting, they'll talk about DMR and SPR and all those things. And DMR, SPR kind of fill the same role, but in two different ways. So DMR is designated marksman rifle and SPR is special purpose rifle. SPRs are generally still in 5.56. So like I have an SPR and I like that rifle. It shoots amazing. I've shot at long ranges. I've taken it to a long range class. And when I got sick of shooting my 6.5 Creedmoor, I grabbed that because I'm like, gas guns are way more fun. Look at me now, Mom. And had a really good time shooting that. But so 5.56 is generally an SPR, but the DMR concept has been around for a long time, and that is generally an accurized 308. And militarily, how this would look at is in the form of like looking at a military purpose and context of this rifle, or just as a civilian, the DMR is for intermediate distances. So it's where you need more than, you're going to go past 300 yards. And, 308, you can, like we're talking about shooting deer and stuff like that, 50 yards to whatever. Awesome. Get it. I'm talking about another context here.
Yeah.
And that DMR is generally fills the niche of 300 to 600 meters or yards. Yeeters, we'll say.
Yeeters like it.
And but 300 to 600, and having that rifle that can put quality hits on targets in that 3 to 600 range is incredibly important because you're still doing it and you're actually using a lot more mass to engage, so you're transferring more energy into it.
So in a sense, I'm going to break down real quick. You've got your DMR, your SPR, and then you've got your Recce rifle, Reese's rifle,
Recce rifles,
rifle.
yep.
Yeah.
Recce. Yeah.
Recce. So in a sense, the DMR is almost like your Recce rifle for your 308 platform.
Well, kind of. So the Recce rifle is, think lightweight and maneuverable and can do a lot of stuff where it's like, yep, okay, I could do this and I can go from 0 to 400 meters.
Yeah.
And then which is could also be Recce would be a slimmed down version. That is correct. Dusky is like a Recce would be a slimmed down version, which is correct. It's Recce's lightweight, slim. I'm gonna go a long way with this rifle because you're going out to do it's for reconnaissance.
Well, if there was only a thing called a AR pistol, you could do that in an AR-10 platform.
Well, that's just a carbine for anyone else in the world. It's the Recce rifle. Like there's a lot of people who have Recce rifles that are 12.7 inch barrel, and that's what and you can run that out to that full distance, no issue.
Okay.
But one of the big things is since we're talking about this in some context of like how effective a rifle is, remember that when we have these things, one of the most effective ways to make them work is to put VZ grips on them. And VZ grips are great because they're made from a solid block of G10. G10 is great because it doesn't get slippery when covered in mud, blood, or sweat. The neat grip angle and 17-degree grip angle allow you to have allows you to make sure that it doesn't get or is not slippery when it's covered with mud, blood, or sweat. And I lost my place on my notes, so I'm just going to keep going with this. But you can get a ton of different varieties of grips from mild to extreme. You can get the extreme ones that I like and the mild ones that Garth likes.
Correct.
And as well as handgun grips, revolver grips, 1911 grips with extreme customizability, different safety notches, bottom profiles, and more. There are over 25 textures and 27 colors available, and this coupon code is good for 15% off of all handgun and rifle grips. And that code is AR-15 podcast.
You bet.
But
Yeah,
anyways,
I was actually going to steal your thunder earlier. I was like, nah, he lives for those reads. I'm not going to do that.
just slide that in.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just glad that they think it's funny as well.
Well, so far.
Oh, yeah, so far. But so when we're talking about this, I was saying like, performance and everything like that. When you get down to brass tacks, what we talk about when, especially militarily or hunting, what does the most damage for a rifle onto a soft tissue target is actually called hydrostatic shock, which is why the 223 is such a or 5.56 is such a devastating round out to 300 meters. So you're moving a smaller, lighter weight projectile at very high speeds. As that hits, and so as that hits, a softer medium, it will create cavitation as it goes through and produce hydrostatic shock, meaning that the force of the round impacting through the jelly that something is made up of, especially if it's produced, containing over 75% water, because you can't compress a liquid.
Yeah.
So it'll have hydraulic dampening effects that will go through and tear things up for quite a ways away. And, it does that for temporary cavitation, et cetera. It creates a larger wound channel than it would be capable of with just the, pure bullet punching through, being like, pew, and just pushing a little hole through. That starts to run out quickly because, physics are a thing. So, yep, you have this lightweight projectile moving really fast. As it covers distance, the friction from the air, gravity, it doesn't have as much powder behind it. All these things, it starts to slow down faster and then it starts to drop. And with a bigger, heavier bullet traveling at a slightly slower speed, if it has a better ballistic coefficient, it will maintain that hydrostatic shock velocities for a further distance, which is why a heavier bullet is a lot of times very much so gooder. And when those things keep going, and it's kind of why I love that 168 grain so much, because it's right in that sweet spot. And that will keep going, and that's where that 600 meter or 600 yeeter difference is very good, and 3 to 600 is perfect spot for this to ride.
I like it. That's it makes a lot of sense. Meter, yeeter, yards. I just measure in freedom. So
that's fair. I just know that some people yell at me because like I start talking and I'm like, oh yeah, it's 500 meters away. And it's like, who uses meters? I'm over here going like, well, I do because reasons. Yeah. 450 Bushmaster means I am a master of anything between me and that bush right there. Correct. That is correct, Dusky. And but as that goes through, like having that ability to have that, capability going through there, where both of these rifles that we were running, we did have our, we had LPVOs on them. And the that, well, so Dusky says, I don't know whether to say yards or meters. That is why we came up with our own term, and we just say yeeters.
Yeeters work.
I think everyone would understand that. But we were running LPVOs, and honestly, they were LPVOs I had laying in my safe on or about my gun room. So there's a Vortex Strike Eagle and a Ride-On old discontinued model. And they were a 1-6 and a 1-8 respectively. So, yeah, you got a little bit more magnification on one, but the reticle was a little bit better on the other. And with what we had, like honestly, for if we wanted to go by the military basis, Garth, do you think you could have engaged a silhouette-sized target at 600 yards?
With the firing them as they were on Sunday when we tested them, I think so, 100%. I don't think I would have had an issue. I was shooting, well, with my group and the way I shoot guns, I was shooting about a 2 MOA with each gun. And I realistically think a full size IPSC steel target at 600 yards would have rang steel probably in a 20 round mag. I probably would have done it 12 out of 20 times, 15 out of 20 times. I think so.
Yeah. And that's okay, yep, we're running these. They're, again, this is your first time kind of picking up and shooting it. It's not your first time shooting 308 or your first time shooting an AR-10. But it was
No.
definitely the first time you'd shot either one of these. And I was just loading up mags. You're like, yeah, I don't even know what I'm shooting for ammo. This is
Oh yeah,
just
it was a pleasant experience, man. I've never had an issue with 308 other than the price. That's honestly the reason I don't really run 308 is because I'm cheap when it comes to shooting larger caliber guns. So, and that's
well,
just a
and
personal preference thing.
well, and I'll be honest, like I remember when I was in high school, I looked down my nose at 308 very hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like anything short action, I was like, what? No. But that was because when I was growing up and kind of introduced into hunting and stuff like that, like, yeah, we shot lever guns and we had all the bolt guns and everything like that. Like, I shot my first deer with a, Savage Model 99,
Yeah.
lever gun. And it was okay. Yep. We got this, but okay. Well, when I got to be, a big kid, it was, oh, all right. Well, it's time for me to have a man-sized rifle. And I thought those short action calibers were all, for, kids at that point. So I was like, why would you even shoot anything that isn't a belted Magnum? And then I would walk off because I had my 264 Win Mag. And that's what I used. And it's, and then it's, I got a 300 Weatherby Magnum. And yeah, like,
well, and that's my biggest dilemma is always, everyone goes, Garth, why don't you have a high power, capacity, high power rifle? I'm like, I'm not a long range shooter. And they go, I don't really shoot game for sport. I don't really care about getting up at 5 a.m. and going and shooting a deer. Didn't do it this year when I tried to shoot one. That was dumb. I went out at dusk. It was the same concept. But, you know, when I tell everyone, I'm like, well, I might have a 308. Then they go, well, why would you want a 308? Because 308, a 6.5 Creedmoor's got way more knockdown power. And it's a better round for shooting game and stuff like that. And I always interject that I'm not going to shoot game if I have a 308. And then it freaks everyone out. So, in this audience, I feel very safe saying that. If I say that uptown or in Pier, then I get dirty looks and then someone calls the cops. So it's what it is.
Yep. And I have since kind of come around full circle from carrying those. When I'd go hunting, I'd carry that 300 Weatherby Magnum and all that to now I'm back to, nope, I'm just going to use this 308 over here.
Yeah.
Because I hunt with an AR-10 and I flat shoot an AR-10 modern sporting rifle platform better than I do a traditionally stocked rifle. Now, I'm not going to get rid of any of my traditionally stocked rifles, but
the fog lives within you.
No, it's just you set guns free.
Yeah.
I do not.
I know. Like I said, it bothers some people. I do that. Some people don't care. It's whatever.
No, I don't care.
Yeah.
I facilitate a lot of it.
You do a lot of it. A lot.
and then I just put them into my black hole of a safe.
Yeah. I still call it the safe to Narnia. Someday there's going to be just like this half man, half farm pop out. I'm like, what are you doing here? I found a 1022 in the back. Oh, cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, it's not weird at all.
I have stuff back there that's seen the light of day in the last year, maybe.
Maybe. Well, sure.
I mean, when Mike was out here from Let's Go Hunt, we started pulling guns out.
Well, that's true. Then they got exposed and they hit air and then they oxidized. And
that's not true. There's oxidation packets in there.
Yeah. Well.
It's like the opening theme song to Top Gun.
Yeah, it's. Well, I mean, first of all, you have to close the dang thing. It's always open.
No, it's closed almost all the time now.
Okay. Every time I've been there, it's always open.
No, it's not. It's, I open it every time you're here, I think.
Well, yeah, I've seen. Well, no, I haven't seen everything in there, but someday we're just gonna go down there and we're gonna pull every damn gun out and just see how many you actually have in there.
Yeah, we'll see what we have, and then we can start counting how much ammo I have next.
Oh gosh. You have a lot of loose stuff, so I'll be like 1, 2, 1 eternity later. 99.
Oh, it's not quite that bad, but we went way down the rabbit hole there.
Dude, we went so far. You know what I want to do now that we've been actually talking about it? I want to reach out to Jake at Patriot Patch, patriotpatch.co, because I have the brand newest patch of all. Yeeter. That's all I was going to say. Actually, Yeeter with a half of inches and half with meters on the other side. And that Yeeter. That's the perfect patch, man. So, guys, when we actually get this done, go check out patriotpatch.co. But in the meantime, go sign up for their Patch of the Month Club because they have fantastic patches. They send you a patch every month in the mail. I don't know what it costs because Jake likes us, and so I get them for free. I'm sorry about that. But they also have tin signs. They have cleaning mats, which Nick and I both use for mouse pads. It's actually got the entire AR-15 breakdown. So if I ever actually cleaned my guns and lost my instructional manual, I can at least look at this and go, hey, I know where that goes. So go check out Jake and all of them over at patriotpatch.co.
And it's $15 a month for the Patch of the Month Club.
Thank you. Which I think is still a worthwhile deal.
Screaming deal. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to, as soon as we're done here, I'm going to be talking to Jake about making the Yeeter patch.
Yes, that needs to happen.
He's enough of a gun guy. He will laugh about it as well. And be like, that's dumb enough to work. Okay.
Yeah.
Dope. So that is great. Also, guys, next couple weeks, we will not be recording on Thursday.
We will be recording, just not on Thursday.
Yes, we will be recording on Wednesday for the next 2 weeks.
Yes, that's because life is getting hectic. We've got GunCon coming up. Can't wait to go over and see all the people over there, including, John Patton, who puts a phenomenal job doing all of it and putting it on for us over at the Brownell Center over in Grinnell, Iowa. We Like Shooting's going to be there. A couple other of the podcasts are going to be there, I believe, right? I haven't confirmed that yet. I just know they usually come. And, yeah, it's a great time. So if you guys bought your tickets, come up and say hey. Actually, I lied. You can't come say hey because things for us. But go say hi to the other guys anyway. And stop in Saturday because that's when the event's open to the public if you have tickets. And it's a fantastic time. A lot of cool vendors, a lot of neat stuff. Get to listen to guys who do this for a living instead of just two guys who do it for a hobby in their basements. So that's pretty neat. So yeah, super excited about that.
Exactly. All right. Well, Garth, do you have anything else to add tonight before we start to sign off?
No, dude, I'm super happy we talked about the matchlock and Yeeters, man. That's just cool. I think we coined a new thing. Super stoked. But beyond that, I would like to tell everyone where they can find us, but that's going to be at the buffer at the end. So if you really want to talk to us, reach out on our social medias. It'll play at the end. You guys can do that. Send us more hate mail on iTunes so I can, come up with other dumb stuff for the podcast to do. Can't wait.
And you never know, I might just start randomly vomiting information.
Oh, I'm going to look up the stupidest things because it's going to trigger something in that big brain of yours. And then we'll be 30 minutes into a show and not have talked about ARs or anything at all remotely close.
Oh, I can make it. I bet I can make almost any of it into something about an AR.
Oh, probably. More than likely. So,
even if it's a stretch.
Did you know the gun bunny was invented in 1942?
Oh, yes. Tale as old as time. Oh, well, all right, guys. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Again, you know where to find us, and we will keep pushing through with this. And you folks out there, remember, get training. Like, you are the one you have to depend on. No one is coming to save you. And with that, you folks out there, stay safe and stay armed. Support the people who support the show. Primary Arms, VZ Grips, 4Patriots.com, and Patriot Patch Company. Be sure to check us out on social media. AR-15 Podcast 2.0 on Instagram. AR-15 Podcast 2.0 on YouTube. AR-15 Podcast 2 on Twitter. AR-15 Podcast on Facebook and wherever podcasts are found. If you just want to drop us a line, let us know how we're doing, or give us a show idea. Make sure to send that email to AR-15podcast 2.0 @gmail.com.